You are a software engineer, bored with your job, your career progression seems flat, and your current salary is not what you expect from the market. You're considering quitting your job, or maybe you already start applying, but here comes the struggle. You don't find the time or motivation to do this aside from your job. It's hard, especially when tech companies are pretty greedy about your time for technical interviews. It's hard. Over my 10 years as a software engineer, I came up with a framework I called Marathon of Interviews. I used it 3 times, and each time I got several job offers that helped me find better jobs with more pay, but most importantly, it was much easier and healthier, I believe, than what most people do in our industry. So let's see how this can help you find your next career move in tech more effectively. So what is a marathon of interviews? In short, you're applying to multiple companies at the same time and hopefully conduct the interviews in parallel to land multiple offers and gain good negotiation leverage. And I'm not talking about getting 1 or 2 offers here, but freeing up the time to be able to land 5 to 8 offers, which will require you to do more than 20 interviews. So yes, that requires a lot of time, and this is the challenge we'll discuss right after. And it sounds hard on paper, but since you're doing multiple interviews at the same time, you'll be at your best because you will discuss the same topics again and again, especially in regards of your soft skills. For instance, presenting your career in less than 3 to 5 minutes is hard, but it's a piece of cake if you are prepared and if you've done it 5 to 10 times already. So let's get into the requirement to run such a marathon as a software engineer or in the tech industry. You essentially need 2 things, but the most important thing is, you guessed it, time. But not just extra time, a lot of space time in your head. If you have deadline, work to do, project that you need to think about, it is going to be much more stressful to do this interview. And worst case, it could even backfire at your current job because you are not performing as you used to. And you need to show up the best of yourself while applying, which is doing 1 job at a time. Apply. I've seen too many people in our industry just get into the flow, apply to 1 or 2 jobs while working, and then take maybe a week off in between. That's not proper time investment. If you think about it, your work is going to keep you busy for most of us from 9 to 5 for a couple of years. So it is probably worth your time investment while searching and apply. So how much time do you need? Well, based on my experience, between 1 and 2 months. You got 2 options. Either you use your PTO, but it's not really a solution given how much time you have to take. But it can be if you take a parental leave or whatever. It's hard, but it can work out. And the second option, which is the one I would recommend, is leave your current job. Now hear me out. I know what you're gonna say, but Mehdi, I got mortgage, kids, and in this economy. Yeah, me too. And the decision is up to you and your situation. Everyone has their own tolerance for risk. And if you're scared about making a jump without a new signed job, here's what I usually do. I write on a piece of paper what are the worst case scenario. I'll have to dig X amounts of dollars in my saving. I'll have to give up on my job requirement and take something that is available. Writing this down will help you to make the decision based on facts and not emotions, and this might sound less scary than it is. And if you're scared about the money here, something important to consider is that the money you won't earn during this break is totally worth it because the goal is to apply to multiple companies and land multiple offers. And in my experience, I had more than 30% salary increase because of that situation, which would have been impossible or really hard to negotiate with a single job or 2 offers. So really consider this time as a meaningful investment. Aside from time, the second thing you need is rather optional, but it's nice to have, is remote interviews. I'm not saying you should get a remote job, but the ability to do all these interviews mostly remote will help you compact your agenda and avoid the commute time, and it will also avoid any bias you may have seeing people in the office and the fancy coffee machine. All right, now that you are convinced that you should take this time, let's get into the main important point. Preparing yourself. So during this time, you review the skill set you like for the target role that you can either fill the gap during the preparation or just be honest about your limits if you are hitting some wall during the interviews. But thinking about your answer, if you are hitting such a wall, is worth it. Is it because you haven't practiced through a project for a while? Is it because you are lagging behind the new features? Or are you willing to learn to fill the gap in that tech, or is it just not your cup of tea? And of course, think also about which skill set you are strong for the role so that you can highlight them with concrete past examples. And to do so, you can write your brag document, which projects and impacts you are the proudest of your career. And you should keep actually this brag document updated as you work, but starting one is okay. Better late than never. I'll share a blog in the description if you want to know more about how to write this one. So researching companies. You should spend some time researching which companies are interesting for you. So look online to understand their business, how healthy they are. So websites like Glassdoor, Crunchbase, or Levels FYI can give you some rough numbers. Then you can write down any questions you may have to ask the future interviewers. Remember that an interview involves both parties. It's also your responsibility to gather all the necessary information about the company, the work culture, and the technical setup. Finally, get a list of the top 10 to 20 companies you would like to work for. Another random tip, it is nice to ask the same questions to multiple interviewers to collect different data points. What is the thing you enjoy the most about your work? In what areas do you think your company or team could improve? And for a given company, you'll definitely see some patterns. Finally, update your LinkedIn profile and define what project and what impact you've done at your previous employers using the brag documents. Last but not least, think about the realistic salary range you want to ask. So applying. So don't start applying directly to your top 3 favorite companies. Do a mixed warm-up. Interview is like muscles that you need to train. You can also look at your LinkedIn network to see if anyone works at the company you are willing to apply. On LinkedIn, you can actually search based on a company name and a connection level. So now the interviews. So just follow the flow. Some processes are more painful than others, and you may see a red flag that would discourage you from moving further, but it's a marathon, and the whole goal is to have time to try the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to reach the finish line. Believe me, there is always something to learn from a company or interviewer, and rejection is part of the process. Don't give up. One important thing to mention the interviewer is your timeline and context. Giving information that you are on a break to do a marathon of interviews and looking to start at a specific date would usually speed up the process. It means that your agenda is flexible and you'll be hired, hopefully, whatever happens in a few weeks. So there is time pressure from both sides. So finally, weighing your option and sealing the deal. Congratulations! You've been through all the talks and tests and now have a couple of offers, hopefully. So it's time to negotiate based on your input. As you mentioned, hopefully a salary range initially during the interviews. You can also review based on the new data points. So if you feel you were a bit under the market value, it isn't a problem if you came back with a negotiation with a higher range than expected. The most important is to justify why you're asking now for a higher salary. But again, if you have multiple offers, you have multiple data points, just stay humble, polite, and provide good arguments. It's also a good idea to reach out to people in your network who currently work at or have left the company. And based on my experience, when a company reaches 150 or more employees, numerous microcultures emerge, which means that one team can operate completely different than another one. Finally, I usually do a reverse interview with the future hiring manager once I have the offer to ask some additional questions. I'll put a great blog from The Pragmatic Engineer about this topic in particular. All right, so let's wrap up. A marathon of interviews refresh your career by allowing you to take time to train your interview skill set, know what you want, and maximize your salary increase. It usually can take between 1 or 2 months based on my experience, but a couple of caveats. The more senior you are, the easier it will be to get application. You might rush things into 1 month, but be aware the process doesn't only rely on your agenda. Some interviewers go on holiday, have parental leave, etc. You don't need to work full-time on this marathon. It takes about 50 to 60% of your time, and you usually take the rest for side projects, sport, or relaxation. Remember, sitting is the new smoking, so doing back-to-back interviews requires so much energy, and again, I would definitely recommend that you don't have any external work constraint or commitment when you're starting this. That's it for this one. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one, and maybe in an interview. Cheers!